2022. This meeting is being conducted in a hybrid fashion as allowed by legislative action. First order of business, Pledge of Allegiance. Charles?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we've got one item to add to the agenda, and it is Rick Maynard is going to be discussing and taking possible action, a contract with Hindig Tennis to repair a crack and paint the basketball court at Adams Middle School under Sourcewell contract. Is there a motion to add that to the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, and let me try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now the question is, where do we put it?
I think there's two things from Rick.
Yeah, but if there are. Oh, yeah, there is a second one, right? Yeah. All right, so the next one would be consider and take possible action contract with Musco Sports Lighting for the lighting project at Adams Middle School under Sourcewell contract. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, let me try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries. Why don't we put them after number 5, so we'll call it 5A. All right. So, item 2, public forum. Anyone wishing to address the board in public forum? Don't see anybody from the public today. All right, hearing none, let's move on to item 3. 3.1 is the approve the minutes of the August 15th, 2022 regular meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any comments, questions, additions, etc.? Good to go. Try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. All right. 3.2, August 22nd, 2022, special meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
Second. Any comments, questions, additions, deletions? No. Let me try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carried.
Off to a good start.
We're at a very good start. You've been in your office by 9:15? Probably not. Yeah, so famous last
Let's not
words.
hear the police hear that.
That's right. I was talking about the office over
Oh,
here.
no, okay.
I'm agreeing.
Oh, good man. Way to bail me out.
Covered. Item 4, Board of Ed Director of Operations Cliff Gurnham. 4.1 is to discuss and take possible action to award installation of the Guilford Lakes Playground to O'Brien and Sons off state contract number 17 PSX 0081. Cliff, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me and taking a look at this. So as you know, we've done most of the site work up at Guilford Lakes over the summer. We just finished up with all that. The equipment for the playground was ordered, I want to say back in May or June, and with the expected delivery date of mid-September. So what we're requesting here, and this has been reviewed by the Standing Building Committee, is to approve the installation of the equipment that's coming in, along with the installation of the poured in place and the wood chips. So this does fall underneath the state contract, and we're looking to have you guys award it to O'Brien and Sons, the same company that is supplying the playground equipment, in the amount of $115,504.50.
Wonderful. Is there a motion?
Make motion. Second.
Second. Any questions, comments, etc.?
Yeah, just wondering, Cliff, on the total of 319 between the installation and the purchase of the equipment and other things, where do you think we're coming out?
We're going to run it right to pretty much just about down to the dollar amount. As far as I know, we might have about $1,000 or $4,000, $2,000 or $3,000 left by the time we're done with the project itself. So we are tracking right on budget.
Thank you.
Great. Anything further? All right, let me try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. Item 5. Fire chief? Who's stepping in? This is,
We're all here.
you're all here. The team is here. The full team is here. This is an item that was brought up, I think, on the August 15th meeting. When was it? Yeah, it was the August 15th meeting, which I was unable to attend, and related to the overage in the fire department. It's not anything that we didn't know was coming. We saw the curve over time. But this is a little opportunity to tell the story and maybe have a wider discussion of how do we avoid getting in this position going forward. So, Mike, I think you've been designated, or
All right, I'll start off.
unless Charlie wants to tee it
Well,
up.
I think if there's a particular question that wanted to be asked by the board, I think that's the way to start this.
Well, I think the question is, you guys were over on your salary line item by a substantial amount. So, and
Right, and I'll let you go, Mike.
All right. So yeah, the biggest piece of this whole overage is salary for budgeting. The budgeted salaries last year, some of the things we didn't predict, or the unpredictables that we didn't plan for, two big driving factors was a long-term military deployment. That member is still deployed overseas. Hopefully we'll be expecting him back. We did account for that in this year's budget. We did adjust a little bit. He's supposed to be back by October, so we're planning on 2 months of time. As MJ reported out in one of the previous selectmen's meetings, we should be expecting some reimbursement from that, which he'll pay back his difference in pay. So there should be some more, additional money coming for last year's budget and a little bit for this year's. But that was completely not planned for in last year's budget. One of the other big driving ones was another long-term absence for the entire year for a long-term sick. I know I can't really get into the details, but having two full-time positions down, that didn't help. It was not a planned piece. The other things that weren't planned last year were 4 retirements. So we had 4 retirements all happen. The contract was settled about, I think, January, around there, and sometime shortly after that, we had a couple of our senior members retire. So we had the back end of the year. How that impacts the replacement salary line item and the overtime salary item, it kind of compounds things because there's that much vacancy. What happens is the remainder of the group that's left, firefighters do not get paid time and 1/2 until they actually work an extra 44 hours over 28 days. So that's it's a good thing for management where we're not normally paying time and 1/2 because we keep that volume of people bigger, and that overtime or time and 1/2, that's where things get costly. What happened last year was that specific piece where we were down people, essentially 6 people. We had to backfill that for the 2 for the entire year and the 4 for the remainder, 3 or 4 for the remainder of the year. So what that did is trigger time and 1/2 for those. They hit Garcia, or they hit that cycle of overtime where we were paying time and 1/2 at a much faster rate than we normally do. So some of the things that we've done to control that, or implementing control measures this year, we've onboarded 3 more people right now, and we're also using part-time employees too to fill some gaps. So the other good thing is that we're really looking at other ways to strategize to keep that piece where people are getting paid time and 1/2 down. That was really the significant most chunk, about 80% of the overage last year. Total unplanned events and not things we budgeted for.
Good.
So the 4 people that retired, their salaries stopped. So there's a little bit of an offset to the overtime from salaries not being paid, but even so, it got larger.
It does, because anybody, when they're not there, somebody has to be there.
Mhm.
And that same pool of people that used to keep that overtime low now is a smaller group of people. And actually last year was the most significant number of order-ins of actually forcing people, or telling them they have to be at work today, back. So those contributing factors forced time and 1/2 for that additional period of time.
When did you start the part-timers?
Within the last 3 months?
About 3 months, yeah, I had a discussion with Mike about that, and put the part-timers back on and, it's a
So-
good source of pools.
What pool of candidates do they come from? Where do the part-timers come from?
From firefighters that are looking for, usually they're career firefighters or people who meet all the qualifications. They have to go through a set criteria of, they have to be an EMT or a paramedic.
Sure.
They have to be a firefighter one, they have to be hazmat operational, they have to have rescue
So
tech.
where are you finding talent like that is my question.
Well, that's not easy.
Right.
That's not easy. That's right.
But
That's not
it,
easy.
from other departments.
Right.
So, and give you an example, if somebody even works at another department full-time, the ability to come back here and work potentially part-time, or if there's no overtime available. The bigger problem is that candidates and departments, not just us, across the whole shoreline are starving for help. It's trying to get people, qualified people, and find ways to implement, let's say, control measures, but ability to make sure that we stay up-staffed and not get in a position where we're short so many people. It's paramedics are probably our biggest future problem, not just us, but everybody. And go ahead, Charlie.
What is the rate? I don't remember in the contract, part-time being part of any
It's
contract.
called the utility list, and we've used it before, Charles.
And so the rate and everything exists in there. How does the rate compare to our full-time?
Well, so it's the lowest rate. So if instead of replacing them at a grade A employee, you're replacing them at the lower rate of probationary employee. So essentially, there's a cost savings. And if people don't, I mean, it's some, but if people, instead
I'm
of
just
ordering,
wondering if in the future, maybe because they are part-time, the benefit and all that situation, maybe, to help your filling these positions, a premium there, but that's something, I'm not gonna micromanage. The other question I had was, you said there was a differential on the military side. Can you explain, they get some, I don't think they make much of it.
correct.
So I didn't understand how I would think of anything, we're making up the difference for them.
We are, but the difference is going to get paid back in terms of paid back the difference that they were paid from us.
So basically, their salary that they receive while they're in the army, they're gonna have to give that
They have
back
to
to
give that
us.
back to us.
If it's greater than what the
Oh,
town.
so we pay them for
Right.
the service and then
Right.
they get reimbursed.
That's right.
whatever
Yes.
That's right.
token they got.
Right, that's the policy of the
Oh,
town.
okay.
Right,
All right, so we were paying them all that.
right. Oh, absolutely.
okay.
And replacing
Got
them.
it, yeah, yeah,
So it's double his salary plus.
okay. Sure. Okay, the only other question I had is, obviously, you're here talking to us because of, the dollar amount, and that it was not a surprise, but a little bit of a surprise. Going forward, I know, contracts and all of that, you had the 4 retirees. Do you have any feel for going forward, how many folks are in position to retire in the near future? Isn't it a 4-year contract?
I think only, I think only one.
Okay.
There's one currently one eligible in the senior most EMT.
Okay.
And I think what's even more important here and what the board should be aware of, all right, is with the current staffing model, all right, we reduced our response time in town to half, okay, and went down to 15 to 7 minutes, all right? Our cardiac arrest saves are almost double, they almost triple in the town, all right? Matter of fact, we were recognized, the department was recognized for having the greatest cardiac arrest save in New Haven County. All right, so the money's being well spent and the public's being well served,
Agreed.
okay?
That's not a question.
And-
That isn't where I was going. Where I was going was the planning. The surprise, but not surprise part, but the unanticipated parts that you faced and taxpayers obviously have to deal with.
The commission was this is the monthly concern of the commission as well as
I
mine.
understand all that. I'm just trying to, going forward,
The
do we
other,
start planning now for 2 or 3 future
so even just
potential events?
for next year, that's another thing, working with Mary Jane, again, we've been working very closely. For this upcoming year's budget, we requested ARPA offset money for sick time specifically. And today I'm a product of the system, but ultimately, unplanned events for the next year, for this next year's budget, hopefully we don't need that allocated ARPA funding. But in the event, we are planning and working with finance to plan for these events, as much as they're unplanned, we're trying to
That
plan.
brings up an interesting question of the sickness issue in the past year.
2 years.
Any feel for COVID related?
Oh, yes, so we actually allocated the spike from pre-COVID to when COVID started, and looked at these last 2 years and looked at the trend of how much it's gone up over that period of time, and allocated a dollar amount to ARPA funding directly related to that COVID offset. So
And how does the real number compare to your anticipated number?
So I think we're pretty close to the articulating that this number of events based on COVID and that rise is directly related. It's very hard to, somebody says, hey, I don't feel well. A lot of times we don't, whether they tested or not tested or any of that, hey, I just don't feel well. Sometimes in order to protect the rest of emergency service, we'll stay home today and take the day off. Versus, hey, I took a COVID test and I'm COVID positive. Trying to directly contribute every one of those to a specific thing. But generally, you can look at the trend of the last 3 years of sick time and then look at when COVID hit. And that's what we articulated on that basis based on those numbers. And so unfortunately, you can be back, but you still have to stay home by the CDC guidelines, so.
So, I mean, there is no real motion or anything. This is more of
No,
a
it's just
discussion
information.
about the change that we had anticipated.
And one of the things that I think is positive on this, you guys started thinking outside the box once again, right? And go to this part-time. So, between, management and the commission, I think that showed some creativity in how to mitigate those kind of things going forward. But it's also my understanding that it's not a bad place for training ground for replacements as well. You can evaluate those individuals as part-timers. I don't know if you want to talk.
test drive.
Farm team.
Basically, the minor leagues, right?
Or bike ride.
Oh, I got the impression that these were folks that were full-time in other departments or, I guess.
We're looking to find
retired wouldn't be
full-time
appropriate.
employment.
Yeah.
But there are, so it is actually,
What did we take? We moved 3 of them up to full-time?
yeah.
So it's
did that mean we stole it from other departments?
We do that often. We there's a lot of change between departments of people moving interdepartmentally. And it's, again, the trying to retain people and find good help is very challenging right now. Paramedics are our biggest future problem, and not just us, but the whole state of Connecticut.
And it's not limited to fire departments, police departments as well are finding difficulty getting qualified candidates, those who can pass the lie detectors and that kind of thing. But also general municipal employees across the state. There are no schools pumping out, assessors or tax collectors or planners, town planners, et cetera. So there's a dearth of qualified individuals for many roles in government.
Do you find the pension structure here a factor in being able to hire and retain people?
Yeah. Yeah.
Word, yes.
Yes. That's definitely, we lost a very good candidate to a neighboring department because of the pension issue and mainly the medical issue. I think the 401 is not as big of an issue as the lack of medical benefits.
Wait, somebody doesn't think, people are saying they don't think that the high deductible HSAs are good.
It's a retirement benefit.
That retirement benefits.
Oh, the retirement.
Retirement benefits. That's the part that we're, because they can leave at 55, 58,
And so
And we
other
addressed-
towns are paying lifetime or at least retirement benefits.
A lot of them are, yeah.
A lot, a lot means. Okay.
Yeah, well, I can't give you the exact number, but you asked the question. and-
Yeah, no, it's a question for another day, but
Okay.
I'm just curious about that.
So some are paying just until they reach Medicare age.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
They're doing that gap.
Right.
The 10-year gap, 55 to 65.
Right.
And we did, in the last contract, we
We're making
addressed that.
movement,
We're
absolutely.
Moving towards
We're
that
making
without
good
going to full
Yeah.
The discussion is always, there's two sides to everything, right?
Right.
At 55, are you capable of going out and getting a job that pays healthcare benefits? Most likely, right? So that's been part of the negotiations for some time.
Right, the town made a very good compromise.
I thought we did.
Right.
Good.
So we're heading in the right direction.
And, very often I'll sign a personal activity form for a firefighter who's leaving. It's not retirement. The question I have is, did they go for benefits or did they go because it's closer to home, Because we have people who are driving quite significant distances to come to work, but it's a little bit different because you're 3 days on and you don't go home during those 3 days. So that commute is sometimes less of a burden for them. So, all right, any other questions or?
Very helpful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you on the road.
You got it. Cheryl will let me on the bike, I think this coming weekend. Yeah, yes, she said a full 6 weeks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
Take care.
Okay, item 5A, Rick Maynard, come on up, Rick. 5A1 perhaps is took the first one, which is the contract with Hindig. This says Tanis on my document.
Mine 1 and 2 are the same.
Okay. Mine is good.
The memo sort of lays it out, numbers.
Rick?
All right, so the Adams basketball course definitely need a little work. They're definitely need painting. It's just a small crack, about 28 feet. It's not a crack like tennis courts tend to get over there at Adams, so it's not too bad. But we got the quote from Hending to repair the crack and repaint this, resurface it. They usually do at least 2 coats, sometimes 3,
Right.
and then restripe it. And that's $10,000 under the Sourcewell contract. I think I gave you the number there for that. So, this all was initiated when we were initially talking about if the basketball courts weren't going to remain at the police station, at the emergency services. And it seems like the court of opinion is they're going to stay there. So you missed me, didn't you?
Court of public opinion.
Yeah, there we go. So, but anyway, they need it anyway. They just worn out. The paint's worn out. Periodically, we have to repaint them anyway. So it's $10,000, and I'll request that you award that to Hending. I can work with the school system, probably have it done on one of the holidays, so they're not disrupting recess and classes out there. So, and there are a couple of holidays come up in October, I think, that we can schedule it.
Are we gonna do separate motions on these or?
We could do all one, so
Okay.
talk about those.
So let me just understand the $10,000 a bit. I mean, it's an even $10,000 to fix the crack and repaint the court. I mean, not that I need to necessarily see things always down to the penny. If there's a reason why it's 10,000, I mean, I guess that's maybe their business model, but it just seems like an odd thing that would be an exact number like that.
Well, that is the exact quote we got from Hending for that.
How long does this take them?
It could be a week, several days anyway. Yeah, so they could start it during a holiday, but I mean, really, it's a few days probably, but they gotta let the one coat dry before the next coat on, let that dry, and then they stripe it.
So did you say they're doing 2 or 3? I couldn't, you slid past that.
It's just the basketball court at Adams.
Coaches.
Coach.
Oh, of course, I'm sorry. Let's see, I got the proposal here.
It's 2 coats of color. There's a lot more to it than that. Because all the cleaning sounds very extensive and a lot of other.
Yeah,
They
it fills the
were
cracks,
not in the
right?
greatest shape, right? I mean, it's
Our cracks.
almost like they.
That's why I almost
2 coats.
wanted to separate them because, I think this is just repairing cracks and things like that are necessary, maintenance and everything. The next thing, maybe I want to have a little further discussion on.
Okay, we can do that. We could
All right.
clearly do it. All right, so, Rick, you want to talk a little bit about the lights?
Yep, and the lights, we got a quote from Musco. They're kind of the lighting experts. I met with the representative about a week ago, I think, and then he gave me the quote on Thursday. That's why this came really fast. I got this in on Friday.
And right now there are 4 light poles, 3 standing, 1 is laying down. It got knocked over or rotted out. And those are wooden poles. They would replace it with 2 poles, so they'd be galvanized steel. With concrete foundations. And includes the lighting fixtures. It's $38,000 for all the materials. Installation is on top of that. They estimate installation would be between 15 and 20,000, but I want to get separate quotes for that. I'll go with maybe a local electrician and get a quote from them to put in.
How long has it been since the lights were operational?
I think most of the summer, that pole, well, I think I found it.
Oh, so last year the lights were operational as if it's been years.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. And then I've noticed that, there was some clearing done around there and everything. So replacing the lights would not require any zoning or any of that. When I saw the clearing going on, I was concerned that the neighbors might have some concern about the lights.
Yeah, well, the Musco lighting the lights are there are very, very old. And the Musco lighting, the new designs, they're very directive,
Well, that's why I
if
asked
you
the
see
question.
light-
If they've been there and the neighbors, haven't had, and by doing a replacement or a maintenance thing, I don't think you have to go back through zoning or anything for that. So that answers that question. Okay, I mean, it is $50,000, and if the decision has been made about the other courts, I didn't realize that they had been lit regularly and utilized. So I was questioning
I
whether
didn't
or not,
realize, I didn't realize they had been lit in the past either, but.
yeah.
They've been lit since I moved into town. I
Yeah.
actually played in the
Yeah.
men's league on those courts.
Yeah, so we-
Years ago.
And we actually run our dog obedience class on that course in the fall because of the light.
So during the discussion of the police courts,
Yep.
refresh my memory, why were people down on Adams courts? What was the problem? Is it because it's just one, or what was the objection?
I think it was largely that the safety factor of the public safety complex, the perception, and I said this publicly, I can't argue with the perception that it's safer to drop your kids off there than it is to drop your kids off at, 7:00 or 7:30 on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night
Mhm.
at Adams, right?
They also said when school's in session, maybe
You
they
can't
couldn't
use-
use them,
Right,
Mhm.
but
but
school's in
that's,
session, the kids aren't using the
The
other ones
lights,
either.
or
It's-
the lights.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
and when school's in session, it's adults that are playing basketball.
Yeah.
They have cars and they could have driven to up the Bittner if that was the case, so.
well,
And I should add here, Matt, that I had come, when ARPA funds first became available, I came and remember I had a whole bunch of different projects, and one of them, which I think you approved, the group approved
Right.
in concept, was if we had to move those courts up to Bittner Park and light them, I think it was around $340,000.
Exactly.
We're not gonna do that. There are some other projects we may come to you for up there, but I don't think it's gonna be near that amount of money. So in a way, we're just transferring that request to Adams to use ARPA funds to help pay for this.
Well, I feel better now that, you explained that they have been lit, have been used, and it's just a maintenance repair. When I first saw the $50,000, I said, okay, I mean, we're going to be spending so much more money, going back to the old plan up at the safety center or emergency services center, But I feel more comfortable now that it is a maintenance and a repair issue of an existing facility, so.
Anything further? Would you folks feel more comfortable having a firm number on the installation price? Because we've got something that says between 10 and 15, unless we say not to exceed 15.
That's not in here. The 38 is just buying the lights, the delivery and everything. So.
Yeah, but we could approve it not to exceed. I mean, it just saves a step.
Right.
If you want to do that, then I just gotta figure out who it's gonna be. It may not be Musco. I may go with a
Well,
local.
we're not doing anything. We're just saying, a dollar amount not to exceed.
Not to exceed.
wouldn't that would help you, right, if we kind of did
Yeah.
all three? Yeah, I think that not to exceed 15 would work.
Good.
So one motion with three amounts of money, 10, 38, and up to 15?
I think that's it.
Okay,
Got a motion, Tim?
that's it.
Say that's it.
And now can we approve that up to 15,000 without having something to actually act on? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've
But
done
I would still have to come back to you, right? Because if it's over 7,500 for
Yeah.
the contractor
it.
might
Yeah, to
be.
award.
Yeah.
Okay,
So it'll come back to me.
Good.
All right,
But you can move forward this way.
I think so. Thank you. Pete's not saying I can't, so.
All right, that's all. Second that, Sandy's
One
motion.
more, about the neighbors, I think there's just that one house that abuts it on the south side there.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think it's worthwhile just reaching out to that per owner and just letting them know what's happening?
I think we could. Again, there've been lights here forever, but
I know,
it's just,
just in my
courtesy.
past experience, I
Yeah.
guess.
And the lighting these days is incredibly precise, right? They have directional and hooded to
Yeah.
keep it right on the, I mean, as long as that's the type of thing we're looking to get, that helps.
Yeah, I just noticed it when you did the clearing, I said, oh boy, here we go.
It's just a good neighbor thing to do if you don't mind.
Right.
Yeah.
The other thing I would ask Rick to do is check with Jamie to ensure that you don't have to go
I'll do that.
back to P and Z. I think if we give them the design of this lighting, might be able to,
Boy, it's probably an improvement.
I think so.
Yeah.
All right, well, we have a motion on the table. Anything further? Yeah, second. Let me try your minds. All in favor?
I-
Opposed, abstaining, recusals, hearing none, motion carries.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you very much.
For the rest of the day.
We know we're gonna come back with pickleball.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So one person's asking for 12 more courts.
Yes,
Yeah, we've heard.
we know that.
Thank you.
It's getting 24.
Well, they want them covered too.
Oh, really?
There's some,
Feeling
there's,
empowered.
all right, item 6, discuss and take possible action on a request to waive section 214 -2A of the town code to allow the serving of beer for September 17th, 2022 golf tournament being held at the Guilford Lakes Golf Course by the Guilford Lakes Golf Course Commission. Is there a motion?
So moved.
A second.
Second, sorry. guys.
The only issue I have
I
with
don't
this
even
is, the only issue I have with this is it's scheduled, that golf tournament is scheduled straight up against
The fair.
the fair. day
We're
parade.
way.
We mentioned
It's
that.
a triple whammy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, yeah, it is. But
This is a fundraiser for the golf course.
it's fundraiser for the golf course.
Yeah.
When they did, they've done a couple of times now, right?
Yeah.
Once again, the community is always pretty responsive, the raffle prizes. the
I
gifts.
thought there was going to be some effort to try and push it back from 10 just to have a later start to sort of
There was,
accommodate the
but
fair
there
at
was-
least, but I guess they couldn't do
There's
it.
an issue with the pizza truck that has been hired, scheduled to be somewhere else later in the afternoon. So,
as far as the alcohol question I'm acting on, it's very self-contained there. It's not like I mean, I don't see any issues with it.
it hasn't, and I've actually been there for a couple of those, and it's, contained. It's not like people are riding around out the golf course with
Yeah.
carts with a bunch of beers like you do at charity tournaments occasionally. Anyway, all right, let me try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, useless, hearing none, motion carried. Item 7, discussion on the cannabis survey. Just as a way of an update, I shared the survey with the Day folks, both you and the Day folks, and you may have seen some of the emails that have come back as it relates to their perspective on it. I have asked Zen City to respond in kind to the questions that were raised as to the veracity of the data and the methodology. So in fact, our bi-weekly call we had with Zen City last week, we had that conversation. So I anticipate getting something relatively soon.
And we will hear about that.
Yes. As soon as I get something back from them, I'll share it with everybody. I got to share this with you folks. I probably should have shared this with you before, but as we move towards the adoption of the zoning rewrite that's been going underway for a couple of years, Jamie has done a great job putting together what I used to call a Gantt chart, but it's basically just a flow chart on a schedule of meetings and public hearings on various pieces of the zoning rewrite. For instance, there'll be a session on hearing on housing, which is the end of this month.
28th.
Yeah, there's one on sustainability, which is going to be in October. We are scheduling a session on cannabis for November. Right? We also will possibly do something in October. So Jamie and I are trying to work out, maybe 2 sessions. So because not everybody can always get to one.
These are in person or Zoom?
These will be hybrid, probably.
Hybrid.
Probably hybrid.
Is that something for public knowledge, that flow chart?
Yes, I think Jamie has already floated this out. I think there
Did you
was,
check the
was it,
date
was
of
it,
the November one?
I don't have, on this document, I don't have the specific.
Could you get that document?
Yes,
to us?
I'll get that. And again, this was the possible schedule to adoption, but she has started penciling in the dates on these things. So, and just so you know, there are, in December, they're planning on a session with power users, okay? That's basically attorneys and, developers, those kind of folks who are much more familiar with the zoning code than I probably am. And then in January, there's a public information meeting to finalize the regs, and then we have a 35-day posting and hopefully adopt them in March. So this sort of fits into that, the whole model, because they are going to have to make a decision on if yes,
Yes.
where. In my office, if anybody wants to take a look at it, I had Kevin McGee use the GIS to map out a radius around the schools, because that seemed to be a pretty consistent theme in the report, was to not have it nearby schools. So, somebody, I think there were comments saying 2 miles, not within 2 miles of a school. Well, if you do within 2 miles of a school, we don't have any space in town other than between Baldwin and Melissa Jones, right?
Is it accurate that if this were to move forward, that there's only one allowed?
Right now, there's only one allowed. There will be, the
And that's just
legislation
based
will
on
allow.
the statute, Connecticut statute,
The
Population?
population.
And it can't be one of each. It's just one, either growing or
No,
or
it
retail.
could be multiple. It's one retail.
It could be multiple.
My understanding is it can be multiple, and Pete can weigh in on this, but the retail side is what is regulated. We have more flexibility with the cultivation, that's my
So
understanding.
there could be multiple cultivation locations, but only
One
one, and you
retail.
could have both?
Yes. Yeah, and you could have a distribution facility, somebody who's, warehousing.
Without retail.
It's the retail that's being regulated, in my understanding, in terms of it being limited to one.
Which would be the most visible and.
Right. So-
Provocative.
So I scaled that down, obviously, 2 miles. So I've got a map that's, like I said, I'll be happy to share it with you folks.
But if that's accurate, that if you eliminate geographically schools and other critical areas, there wouldn't be any place for it. Why are we having a discussion?
Well, because if we drop it to a half-mile radius,
Oh, it's our choice
it's
about,
our choice to do
so
whatever.
it's
we-
not like alcohol
We
or
don't-
something
we don't-
else where it's regulated.
Right, we don't have to do that. We don't have to limit it to that radius, but I think in response to the concerns that are consistently voiced, we decided, Jamie and I decided to take a look at various scenarios. So Pete, you've got your hand raised, which means you're probably going to correct me on something. Pete? Muted? No? Pete, are you
Yep.
muted?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I've got the 2-year-old and a 1-year-old running around my house, so I'm technologically challenged today. They did, this last legislative session, they changed the restrictions on retail. That's the only thing I wanted to add, that you can have more than one. When the statute came out of the chute, there was a limitation on how many retail establishments per population. And I think they've released that entirely. But at any rate, when we have a further discussion, I'll
Pete, if
confirm that
that's-
for you.
If that's the case,
Mhm.
that potentially you have unlimited number and we did move forward allowing it, period. There's no way at that point through zoning or whatever to limit the number. In other words, the number potentially would be unlimited, such as a gas station or whatever.
No, you could still limit it as
Through
you do
zoning.
other establishments through zoning.
Okay,
You know,
but
you
that
could
would be
limit it to,
that would be a secondary step that would obviously open us to challenges and that type of thing. Okay. That's good to know. That's important.
That seems to change a lot.
That's important.
Even interpreting the
I
survey.
mean, that means every convenience store or gas station could do it. They can
So-
sell it like cigarettes.
So in the survey, I don't know if that was that fact that at the time of the survey, it was limited by population and we would have just one. I don't know if that was implicitly, people just kind of knew that at the time, but that really puts the entire survey
Yeah, I mean,
results.
So
up
our
in the
option
air.
is
No,
either
we
apply
still-
the
We can
statute,
zone that.
or can we say we have one?
we still have the right to use an ordinance to do that.
I know, but
Right.
the minute you go to a local ordinance, then you just, it's a challenge. I mean, at that point, you can't, local ordinances are not going to weigh
My
against,
experience with
this
people
industry.
who use it in Massachusetts, I don't think that's the way it's working up there, that you just walk into a,
I'm sure it
It's-
isn't, but
it's
from what you
official.
just said, it
right,
is.
it's official dispensaries that are just solely devoted
Yeah, very
to
strict.
that's a
to
state
selling,
reg,
and
but
there's,
that's what he
they're
just-
checking your license 3 times. I haven't been in myself, but I do know people who have. So, because I was asking, so,
Mhm.
Yeah, but it's no different than the age limit on cigarettes or alcohol.
Except that they're much more widely available. The idea,
But from what Pete just said,
no,
that's
that's
what
concerning.
the candle that we would
I
be
didn't-
opening.
I just didn't get the sense that any store that sells anything could suddenly start selling edibles. I just don't
No, they
get
have to
that.
be licensed.
Yeah,
They have to be
and
registered.
there's a bunch of rules.
And cigarettes and alcohol and now this. The point of this, of not having any state well, because you already know the federal regulations, but not having any state ones means it becomes a local challenge, okay? And there, that means free convenience.
well, that's why it's good that you have a moratorium in place that, so that there is no delay between, or there's no gap between the state prohibition and what you may choose to do on a local level.
So Pete, I think it would make sense for us to get down in the weeds a little further on this and maybe a special workshop meeting for this board to go through the permutations and the changes in and what the possibilities are.
Oh, and just to digest the report, to me, there are a number of holes besides over and above what Day has raised in that report.
How about the rest of the towns in COG or SCROG?
Branford's already allowing it, East Haven's allowing it, New Haven is allowing it. Those are the 3 that I'm most familiar with at this point. I understand West Haven is probably going to allow it. I don't know about North Haven. I haven't talked to Mike Frieda recently about it. I believe Milford is going to allow it. So I don't know what North Branford is doing.
And our moratorium,
Madison is
which
sort of-
we extended 6 months and then 6 months, we can't keep it, we can't keep having a moratorium indefinitely, right?
I think we can. Pete, you want to handle that one? Because we have the right to either allow it or not allow it by the legislation. I think we could kick it down, kick the can down as
Because
long as we want.
I thought we were within a time frame, but
There's I think there is some concern about extending it indefinitely. It's not supposed to be that, in general, it's not supposed to be that kind of a tool. But I think you folks are going to be having a substantial discussion before that happens. And I know the zoning regs are being rewritten, and this is one of the issues they should, I believe they are addressing.
Pete, you and I can talk offline about pulling some kind of session together and getting as much information relative to our decision-making capacity and some of the permutations that we've just talked about. So if anybody has very specific questions about this, would you forward them along to Tracy, and we can make sure that we get them to Pete? All right. Anything further?
Do we have
It's an
time to hear?
important thing, and I'm glad we're taking the time to go about this slowly and gather this information and see where the dust settles with the statutes.
Do we have time to just hear what your other concerns are besides day concerns? I'm just
I'm not
interested.
prepared right now. I mean,
All right.
but mine are more philosophical in how we approach data and that type of thing. So this would not be the right time.
Okay.
Sure. All right, anything further? No? Thank you all.
No, I'm just gonna make the observation that the difference between sort of the theoretical idea and when you get down to the actual reality is, which of course is why we're here and it's our job and it's important and challenging, but the idea seems like a good idea, but when we get down to the details, it's super.
Especially with all
We
the
get this
gummies
right.
and stuff like that that are already out there. I mean, can you imagine a kid walking into a convenience store with a bunch of gummies on the front counter?
Horrible. That prospect is horrible. If that's really what they're talking about, that's something that went sideways.
All right, item 8, discuss and take possible action to set a town meeting date of September 13th, 2022 at 8:30 a.m. to Town Hall and via Zoom to grant easement to the state DEP for Sluice Creek Marsh restorations. Let me just give you a little background on that for those who may recall. We've been having a challenging set of discussions with DEP, as well as the Army Corps of Engineers on the Sluice Creek dam, or the dam, tidal gate, I'm sorry, the tidal gate. And it's in need of repair. And
Watergate, you could almost say.
Oh. Tidal
Help
water.
him.
That was just.
I think Rick rubbed off on you.
So we reached an agreement with DEP that in fact we do have the right to repair that based on the history, statutory history of that thing, of that tidal gate. We still need to be permitted, however, so they still do have some authority over it. So we also had some extensive conversations with DEP around the Sluice Creek Marsh Restoration Project. That marsh is one of the prime targets on the eastern seaboard for restoration. Audubon societies, DEP, and a couple other organizations have identified that as a marsh that needs to be protected and or reclaimed. So in order to allow us to continue to utilize the tide gates, which restricts flow at certain times a year into and out of that creek through the tidal gate, it means that marshland is not getting as much filtration and water flow as it should be up into that area, because that goes pretty much all the way up towards Calvin School, up that far, and even further up to the railroad. Right. Well, that's Route 1, that's the East River. This is the Sluice Creek, which it runs almost parallel to it or adjacent to it, but it feeds that into the marsh. So they have come up with a plan, and we can share it with you. It's voluminous, but that would create a new channel just north of the boat launch, which basically would then tie into the Sluice Creek a couple of 100 yards further in. So it would allow for continual ebb and flow and allow us to continue to use the tide gate. So I wrote a letter of support to DEP in their dealings with the Army Corps of Engineers, because DEP even has to get Army Corps of Engineering approval to do something like that. So there are 3 parcels of property that go basically south to north. One of them is a town piece of property. One of them belongs to the Rothbergs, Rothberg Institute, or whatever their land holding type company is. They're the first one. We've got the third one in. The second one is the Dolan Shellfishing Company, the successor to the Dolan Shellfish. It's Bloom Shellfishing out of I think it's Norwalk area, somewhere down there. Yeah, well, they own most of the beds in Long Island Sound, including beds up the East River. That was Joe Dolan's old company years ago. Dolan. So I gave a letter of support. So we've had this conversation. They need to get access to across those properties. So originally they were talking about purchase pieces of it, but we decided in a meeting that I had with DEP, Janice, as well as representatives from Rockford. Rockford, rightfully so, indicated a concern as to the impact on what they can do with their piece of property, which is limited to start with right now because it's basically on a marsh. So, it's.
How big is that cut proposed?
Oh, you mean the width? It's like a eight to eight, I think it was 8 feet. It through the middle of the channel and then it, goes out like this. So I think it's like 12 to 15 feet total. So I'll send you the report and projected thing. So this is.
How many feet long?
Oh, I'm not sure. It's a couple hundred yards, up through the.
This would go beyond the building, behind the building.
It would go behind their parking lot. All right, so if you think where the boat launch is, they're looking to put it, I think it's like, some 75 to 100 feet.
I always struggle with, especially DEP, the plans on changing Mother Nature's direction.
Right.
Right.
You struggle with,
And what
Mother
the
Nature
unintended
picked this
consequences are.
direction for a reason,
So, yeah, that's.
And I'm not sure 100 years of experience have taught them anything, but the concept is a good one from our perspective.
Yes.
The reason
Yeah, I
we
mean,
laid
if
out.
that's a valid for us as humans and what we would like to see in the area, but
Right.
Mother Nature doesn't always
Still be
agree
very
with our
frustrating.
latest plans.
I would the point of this is, it's a town hall, it's a town meeting.
Yep.
Everybody a lot of people may be interested. I know more folks watch these than
I
I
realized.
But then I'd certainly encourage everybody who's got an interest to tune into that one. What other advertising of this meeting takes place? Matt? Just remind
It's
me.
in the paper and
Okay.
and it'll be on the website as well.
Great.
So this is not timed for our regular meeting. This is a separate.
This
event.
is a separate event.
I happen to be away that day, so I won't be there, but
Okay.
it's another good and important thing. Thanks for keeping it moving.
We got it.
That gets me thinking about that flow chart that you had on zoning a few minutes ago. Does there exist a flow chart of town meetings?
Not a flow chart, but a calendar. We've got a regular calendar that's that you can go on the website and take a look at meetings. And every day there's a list that usually pops up for the meetings of the day.
But like we could get the next 3 months of meetings?
Yeah. All right. Okay, so is there a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Let me try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. Item 9, appointments and resignations. Act on a resignation received from Britt Merles from the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Guilford Lakes Golf Course Commission effective September 18th. Is there a motion?
So moved, and we usually say thank you.
With
and-
appreciation.
With appreciation and regret, and I think I'd just like to add a little bit, because she was involved with kind of the rebirth or regeneration or rethinking about the golf course, and I think she put a lot of hours into that, and just to recognize that. Other people did too, but
She was in the thick of it.
yes, she was in it.
Absolutely.
Well done.
Well done. I agree. Okay, so motion and a second. Let me try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
Item 2, act on a resignation received from Chris Teach from the Harbor Management Commission. Is there a motion also with appreciation and regret?
So moved.
So moved. And a second? Second. Try your minds. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none.
Just back to Britt, it said ZBA, but she wasn't, I couldn't see anything about the ZBA here, that she was on. It's on, in our agenda, it says that she's resigning.
No,
So-
it's-
zoning
That
board of
typo was
appeals.
there last.
But I think that was incorrect.
I'm not sure it is. Trace?
Yeah, I saw that.
She's on the ZBA as well.
Oh,
Oh, so,
and she's stepping off of both.
Yeah, she's
Yes.
actually not to I think she and her husband are intending to move.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
what she
they,
said.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think she sold the house and it was on an email.
She just said we're moving, our family is growing.
Right. Okay, 9.3, act on a recommendation to move Nick Hadley from alternate to regular member on the Harbor Management Commission to fill a vacancy for term to expire July 31, 2026. Is there a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Let me try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion's unanimous. Okay. Okay. Let's go to 9.4, act on a recommendation to appoint Richard Wallace to Public Works Commission for a term to expire May 31st, 2026. I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Let me try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstaining, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. 9.5, act on a recommendation to reappoint Todd Franciolo as an alternate to Public Works. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make that so moved.
There you go. In a second.
I'll second.
Let me try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstaining, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. Item 6, an act on a recommendation to reappoint Peter Rader to the Standing Building Committee for a term to expire June 17th, 2026.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second.
Nice to see that the Standing Building Committee remains as a
Full stock,
full complement. So,
Staff.
Yeah.
Staff, right. Let me try your minds. Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Item 7, act on a recommendation to reappoint Will Thompson to the Standing Building Committee for a term to expire on June 17th, 2026. I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Let me try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstaining, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. 9.8, act on a recommendation to reappoint Joseph Nugent to the Land Acquisition Commission as the Water Pollution Control Authority representative for a term to expire July 31, 2023. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Thank you.
Second.
Second. Let me try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. Act on a recommendation to appoint Gloria Gibney as an alternate to the Harbor Management Commission to fill a vacancy for a term to expire on July 31, 2026. Is there a motion? Is there a motion? Not hearing a motion. Let's move on to item 10. Request for use of town property. Charles, you want to act in your former capacity where you would say, let's all do them all at once?
Yes. I'm looking, I just want to make sure. Yeah, I will move, Guilford Arts Center, Hector and Chris from a Heartbeat.
Yeah, Heartbeat, yeah.
To use the green, and First Congregational Church to use the green, all for signs as syndicated. Oh, country school,
It's a use.
Actually,
center,
Thank you.
Episcopal Church,
Oh, yeah.
and Christ Episcopal Church again. I'll move all.
Okay.
For the signs or for signs and use?
Signs and use.
Signs and use both.
Okay. Anybody, is there a second?
Second that.
Second, any comments or discussion?
most of these are ones that have already happened, and all appear to be within the parameters of, nonprofit or public service type events.
Mhm.
I mean, hard to complain about CPR.
Yeah. Okay, let me try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same recusal? None, motion carried. Item 11, committee reports. Sandy, I think you do have.
Yes, I think I said some of this 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, but I'm happy to repeat it. On September 20th, we are having a meeting of the Housing for Economic Development Plan Committee, and we have not met officially in, I think, almost 2 years. And it's just going to be an update from Neighborhood New Horizons, and also talking about the program that we're scheduling in October, which is scheduled for October 18th, which is a public forum information about the various affordable housing, workforce and affordable housing opportunities that are coming forward into the town, some of which are not for profit and some of which are for profit. Because it's been in the paper, but we just kind of want to have it all as one entity to be produced to be discussed at the library for about an hour and have representatives hopefully from the Hubbard Road development, I can never think of what he calls it, but Chris Widmer, the green space or
The cottages.
cottages at
Great Hill
Great
cottages.
Hill, the Woodruff, and if there might be something else as well proposed. Just to kind of give an opportunity for a public informational forum sponsored by the town. Jamie Mazzoni.
Aren't the Route One property, is that permitting process in order? I thought that was
The Route
That's
One,
not affordable.
55 and older stuff?
the
But
one
it's
that's
not-
across
It's not
from
deed restricted according to those.
To the
the Route
parameters.
One property across from the from the farm, Strawberry Hollow.
That's not affordable.
Okay, and then there's also the one behind off State Street. I don't know about that
That's
one.
not affordable.
Okay, so,
These are those are all market rate,
okay,
unfortunately.
But they're not 55 and older or anything?
Those restrictions have been pulled. The developers went back to planning and zoning, the one across from the rock pile. That was changed a couple of years
that
ago.
one was changed, but then there's that newer proposal that's across from
Yeah, further up,
Strawberry
yeah.
Hollow of condominiums, and I thought they might be,
I don't think they
Okay.
are. I don't think
well,
it's affordable.
that's so far out, I don't, yeah. So 3 for sure, we're gonna talk about.
Still going to be increasing the amount of capacity. I mean, housing stock.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, in talking about it, I think you ought to, note that they are far out proposed as far as the permitting process, but I do think that ought to be part of the planning discussion, that you have potentially that many new housing units potentially.
But they're not, at this point, those 2 on Route 1 are not,
I know they're not, but
3
I
of them are
mean,
not.
when you start talking about planning though, and thinking
Yeah.
about the future of the community, to ignore that they're,
Right, I mean, I'm not arguing with you, but I don't think that's the purview of the particular committee that I chair,
no, but I'm just talking
You could
about
just
when
come
you're
up
having a public information
Yeah,
situation, I think, I just think sharing all of the information that we have is of some value.
Just, I'll send you out, you can get a precursor to Sherry Cody's monthly report to us. She gave her report this morning at the EDC meeting, which is what I was on before. So she talks about most of these housing projects that are underway. So it gives an update on who's applied, who's officially applied, what's been approved, et cetera.
so the 2 on Route 1 and the one off State Street, they are moving along, is
Yes, they
that
are.
correct?
State Street received planning and zoning approval in March. Obviously Hubbard Road was approved in June. It was. Strawberry Hill, planning and zoning has received the application. So these things are moving.
And the one behind the rock pile or across from it, that's,
They're still strip mining that.
Yeah.
Basically.
are they bringing things, is that all coming from there? It
Yes.
seems like endless.
Notice
All
how the
coming from
inventory
the-
has been reduced. I mean, it's getting used.
I
Yeah,
mean, my guess is that's valuable material.
So it's fair.
Yes.
I mean, you're just leveling, in the process of leveling the lot.
Right.
Just creating that opportunity for crushed
Well,
stone.
it's a pretty extensive lot. I've been up into the back there, and it's a big parcel. Big parcel. So, and Sherry can give us a full explanation of how things have changed. Because originally that was sort of like cluster housing. Now it's going to be more apartment style or condo style. So
and the Hubbard Road with you said it was approved by zoning, were they able to make any of, is it still gonna be 101 bedroom units with 30%?
yes, it is. Yes, it is. Despite our best efforts to get that resolved. And just as a little background, very often, the Town Hall South, the permitting agencies, we have a weekly, they have a standing Tuesday meeting, right? And often they bring the developers in to talk about the, what all the permutations are on these projects. I would say that Jamie, without fail, when a new project comes, asks if there's an affordable housing component to it. So I think we have to have that mindset that we want to continue to push
Yeah.
housing. And whether it's affordable by classic definitions or workforce housing. But not only that, there is a dearth of, 1, 2, 3 bedrooms that are available for rent
Yes.
in this community. It's a challenge.
That still holds up from the Guilford Foundation survey, which is now 8 years old, but 2 and 3 bedroom property.
And of late, Jamie has started to talk to Sandy and her team. There's a meeting scheduled for September 20th. To
Right,
talk
September
about
20th at 5 o'clock.
To talk about the possibility of taking that loose task force and creating a permanent body.
Right, we mentioned that at the meeting that we're absent. Charles says, another commission.
Well, we're just formalizing
I know.
it. 'Cause we
I
keep-
understand.
We keep calling the same people to come out and do the same things.
I understand.
That's actually part of the job, manning them too.
Yeah.
So, okay, committee reports. Any others? No, we're done with the permits, right? So we can disband that, all right? Correspondence, anybody have anything? No? Old business? New business? Let me just take the opportunity for a minute. We're in I think I mentioned this to you. We had, through Council of Governments, applied for and received a grant from DEP to do a pilot program for food waste diversion. And we received the grant. So Janice, myself, Tracy, are working with DEP as well as the consultants they have to launch this thing. So we had sent letters out to haulers who would determine who might be eligible who would be interested in participating. Last I heard, we had 2 of our traditional haulers at Guilford expressed an interest. Country, whatever, I can't remember their full name, but they are a major player in that industry, in garbage hauling as well as the food waste diversion. So there's a possibility up to 350 homes may be able to get food waste diversion added to their weekly collection at no additional cost. If it's only one and it was country, well, then we would, they would have to switch their hauler to country because they would do both at that point. All right. So the details are going to be emerging there. So we're working on a press release with DEP.
What about commercial in there?
This is just residential at this point.
I think that the highest potential for, it's like,
Apparently something, there was a very sobering article in the Hartford Current last week or so about how, I guess the big facility up in Hartford is closing in the next couple of years.
It's done. It's closed.
Okay, and we're shipping stuff out of state.
Yep.
And food waste, residential food waste is, because it's heavy, it's wet, tends to be about a third of all the trash. This is a wonderful way to sort of get out ahead of the problem, and at least locally, you gotta start somewhere. But this trash disposal issue is, it's gonna be like the 70s all over again here. We're gonna really be in a bad spot, the state.
no, but
It's worth
my
exploring
question
this.
was the food recycling or whatever. I mean, I would think the majority, not a majority, but a good, I think the commercial, the restaurants and everything would be a high source of,
They are. This grant was targeted for consumers.
oh, it's because of the grants.
Because of the grant. That's right.
But over and above the grant, if we have companies servicing the area, I would think that they'd be able to service the commercial people over and above the grant. I mean, they could have other customers besides.
Those discussions will have already started to take place. How do we engage the commercial entities? They could do it today. There's an outfit called Blue Earth that has subscribers even in Guilford. They take it to the digester or whatever it is up in Southington. But it's an overlay service to your garbage recycling or garbage and recycling, right? So the next phase would be to try to get the businesses interested. Now, if at some point we want to get crazy, we could actually do something by ordinance, but I don't think we're anywhere
Not
near
there
that.
yet.
Not there yet, but
No, but I think creating opportunities for restaurants to participate might save us having to regulate it. So I would just find a way to encourage it.
like everything else, a program like this is fraught with a variety of challenges. Right? When I mentioned it in my own home, the response was, where are we going to store it? Because I've got, like a lot of folks, I got a drawer, pull it out. It's got recycling in one and regular garbage in the other. Where am I going to put the thing? All right, put something on the counter, or do I have to put it, on the stairs going to the basement? Where do you do it? So
Yeah, I use one of those compost bins or anything, and you gotta manage it. I mean, it's.
You gotta manage it.
well,
And I use the word manage it.
right.
My wife,
I've got one on the counter next to the sink above the garbage too for composting.
Yeah.
So.
but even,
It's a lot.
but even that wouldn't work because, you can't have the meats and things like that.
Yeah, but with the food diversion, you can take everything.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
That's the end all be all, because you don't have. to
Luckily, the
do that
price of
separation.
steak has gone up, so there's not as many bones.
Speaking of steak, is there anything that from the economic development can report that you might share with us today? Regarding
Regarding an option on the green.
the restaurant on the green?
Yes, targeted
Nice to
for,
transition.
targeted for,
I think it was the
tentatively targeted for
17th.
September 16th, maybe. Might be a soft.
It was a sign on
opening.
the window.
Soft opening, yeah.
Well, and that same, go ahead, I didn't mean to.
No, I tell you what, they did a beautiful job. It looks terrific.
There's a lit up sign inside that looks really
Yeah.
interesting, and the bar looks nice.
Jeez. What do you-
Speaking of DEP before and everything, is there any update on that violation that was reported to us a week or so ago? Is that under control?
The moving at the condominiums.
I just, when I heard
Yeah.
DEP in violation, I want to be very careful as a community about that.
Right, the developer or the owner of that property now has to submit a survey, have the property.
So we're on it and
Our interim zoning official is
DEP
on
knows
it.
that we're doing
Well,
due diligence.
it's now DEP's.
Okay, I just don't want Guilford community to get it.
Right, and I think you and I talked about this. Mere fact that we saw it and identified it and reported it to DEP, that was the first action we took. We reported to DEP with a copy to the owners of that property.
Okay.
So, but thank you for that.
All right.
All right. Public forum, I don't think there's anybody here for public forum, right? All right, item 16, discuss and take possible action on possible land purchase. That's going to require an executive session. Is there a motion to go into executive session with Gary and Kevin?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries. You guys want to
Take a usual break.
be recording? Is there a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Let me try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. In executive session, there were no motions made. There were no actions taken. However, as a result of some conversations, Lou, I believe you have a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve an offer that was brought to our attention in executive session, that we move that opportunity to public hearing if it goes to contract, and to also authorize the selectmen to sign a letter in support of a grant furtherance of the project.
Second. Any further comments or questions? Let me try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. Nothing left to do. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you,
Favor.
Gary.
Thank you.